Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachai Kodash. The honors to my teachers, the head apostles, and elders of Great Millstone, and Kazakh Shalom to the hopeful elect. This is the brother Leash from the church here in Cleveland, Ohio. And this lesson was inspired by a conversation. When we out and about, whether it be at work or, outside of work, you run into people who just so happen to know they're Israelites. And I ran into somebody who was an IUIC. I didn't let them know that I teach or anything, but I let them know I read the Bible. Just let them talk. And he was explaining that Adam and Eve was naked. He said that that tree wasn't like a real tree, wasn't no apples. He said that they were naked because they were ignorant. And something along the title of this lesson is that nakedness equals sin and not ignorance. So we're going to break that down via the precepts. The Apostle Gabar explained this beautifully already. Lord willing, if I can find that GMS mailbag, I'll leave the link in the description, rather. But without further ado, this is Genesis 2:25. It says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So, of course, precept upon precept, line upon line, to provide context. This is Genesis 2:21. It says, and the Lord God and the Lord Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. So this is a deep, dark saying. He didn't take one of his actual ribs. Eve had to be a close family member. Again, if you can receive it, Eve had to be a close family member, and I'm going to prove that with a precept. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So this is a good point right here. You have to know when the scriptures are being literal and when you have to do a little bit of extra digging. So when you become married to your wife, are you conjoined into one person? No, you're not. But this is to prove that when it says bone of my bone, it's talking about a relative. This is Genesis later down in the book. This is Genesis 29. I started 12. It says, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. So he just told another grown man that he's my bone and my flesh. It's a way of saying they're related. And he abode with him the space of a month. So that goes to the part where they sinned. Nakedness, depending on the context, can be literal nakedness and sexual intercourse, or it can be sin. So in Genesis 2:25, it says, and they both were naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Right, they were not ashamed because the Lord ordained that for them to happen. Because before we received the law of Moses, these things were passed down orally, these things being the law, statutes, and commandments. And you cannot be with a close relative. Leviticus 18:9. This is the nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. So this is obviously talking about sex. Let's get that in there. In Leviticus 18, should I start at 6? You must never have sexual relationships with a close relative, for I am the Lord. Do not violate your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with any of your father's wives, for this will violate your father. Do not have sexual relations with your sister or your half-sister. There's no such thing as a half-sister, but you get the point. NLT lets you know that this is talking about sex. This is whether she is your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born into your household or someone else's. Do not have sexual relations with your granddaughter, whether she's your son's granddaughter or your daughter's granddaughter, for this will violate yourself. And point made. And going to the point about sin being sex. Nakedness being sin, Salakia. Habakkuk 2:15 says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou may look on their nakedness. And again, nakedness is equated to shame, sin. See, right there it says over there, shameful nakedness, because when you're naked, you're embarrassed, you're ashamed. So to that word, naked. Blur, I'm getting nothing. Revelation 3:17, it says, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable, and poor and blind and naked. So it doesn't mean literally naked. Its context means in a lower state. Revelation 16:15 says, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. So again, that nakedness is equated with not having a cover and being ashamed and being full of sin and iniquity. So when it comes to these scriptures, you have to rightly divide the word of truth. Certain things that Yahweh Bashim Yahshua revealed to, those pastors in accordance to his heart, which we, through faith and through the works that they put out, believe are the apostles. The apostles on down. They're the ones rightly dividing the word of truth. Second Timothy 2:15 says, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That means breaking the precepts down correctly so people can be edified and you understand the whole picture, the whole scope of the Bible. So I just wanted to bring that out. He said that nakedness was just pure ignorance and not knowing. But nakedness, depending on the context, as we've seen in Leviticus, it can mean sexual intercourse, literal nakedness, or we've seen from those other precepts where being naked can equate to being full of shame, being full of sin and iniquity. We're in a lower state. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. And until next time, Shalom.